What's up, Moxie? HomeWOD day number 68 going down. We have two pretty cool pieces going on. The first one is our metabolic conditioning for the day. It's called Order 66, and it might be my favorite workout of the week. The other piece that we've got going on today is an awesome accessory work piece that's going to really target our midline again, just kind of like we hit yesterday, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about our metabolic conditioning first, Order 66. This workout is our interval piece of the week. We're gonna do 4 rounds, and each round is gonna start on the 5 minutes. So what that means is we're gonna start 1 round at the 0, 1 round at the 5, 1 round at the 10, and 1 round at the 15-minute mark, okay? Now 1 round is 12 alternating single arm dumbbell snatches, right? So 12 dumbbell snatches, just like we normally do. 15 single arm dumbbell thrusters on our right arm, 12 more snatches, 15 single arm dumbbell thrusters this time on the left, and then finally 12 more single arm dumbbell snatches, okay? So this comes out to a total of 66 reps each round. And our goal here is to get through this as fast as possible, okay? Now with the movements that we have here, if we go unbroken, okay, from the time we pick up that dumbbell for our first snatch and we don't set it down until we finish that last set of 12, it's gonna take us somewhere between 2 and probably 2.5 or 3 minutes, okay? And that would be an awesome time to get here. But we're gonna cap each round at 4 minutes, just kind of as a blanket, to make sure that regardless of how far we get into this, we have some rest built in before we have to start our subsequent rounds. We're trying here to really keep that intensity high, to push the pace, maybe do some bigger sets than we would normally be comfortable with of these movements, and then build in some rest so that we can keep that intensity high, not only on rounds 1 and 2, but all the way through round number 4, all right? The goal here is just go hard, rest, and repeat. So pick an appropriate weight here if we kind of have maybe some flexibility with that to make sure that we have something where we feel comfortable pushing the pace on both the snatches and the dumbbell thrusters. As one important note here, there are a lot of snatches going on today. We've got 36 of them each round, and we have 4 rounds in total. So let's make sure that we're keeping a pretty solid back position. We don't want to get kind of rounded forward and put all of this in our spine to try to save our legs maybe for the thrusters, because once our back starts getting tight or locked up, we're really gonna have a hard time stringing those snatches together in those later rounds. Now, the other piece that we have today, our accessory work, I'm really excited about, but it is going to be a little bit longer today than some of the other things that we've programmed. I would say that you should set aside 15 to 20 minutes to hit this accessory piece. It has 2 movements, Turkish get-ups, and then a high plank row. The Turkish get-up, we're gonna be doing 6, 4, and 2 reps on each side. And the high plank row, we're gonna do 12, 8, and 4 reps, also on each side. Now, the Turkish get-ups, we've done these before. We're really trying to target shoulder stability, shoulder positioning, and even getting some shoulder range of motion in there as well. The 3 things that I think are important to be thinking about on the Turkish get-up: number 1, your elbow should be locked out. If we ever start bending at the elbow during this movement, we're really going to struggle with keeping that shoulder in a stable position and keeping that weight over our shoulder. The second thing that we want to be thinking about is making sure that our hand is always directly over our shoulder vertically, right? So a vertical line there. We don't want to see too much deviation where it's going out to one side, the other forward or back. It should always kind of be the straight up vertical line between our hand and our shoulder. And then finally, we want to make sure that the thumb is kind of pointing back the entire time, right? So instead of having our thumb pointed in, we want it to be where overhead, right? You can't see my hand, but my thumb is going to be pointed behind me when I set up on the ground, and then also whenever I finish up overhead. That's going to keep my shoulder in a stable position throughout that entire movement. Now, the other movement today, the high plank row, is really going to focus on our midline. This is going to be similar to a renegade row in some respects, but since we don't have 2 dumbbells, the overall stimulus will be at least a little bit different. The way it'll work, I'll have one hand planted on the ground in my plank position. I'll have my feet out, probably a little bit wider than I normally would in a plank. And then I'm gonna have my opposite hand. So whichever one isn't planted on the ground, I'm gonna be holding a dumbbell. I'm gonna do 12 rows in that plank position on that side, and then swap arms, do 12 on the other side, and so on down through my rep scheme, okay? Now, with this single arm row, when we're in this plank position, we're really trying to target core stability here. The row portion of this shouldn't be our primary limiter. So what we want to be really focusing on here is not letting our spine kind of rotate or deviate from that high plank, strong position whenever we're doing those rows. We want to make sure that we're not leaning away to make it easier on the midline, and we want to make sure that the weight's not pulling us forward. So to that end, we're really going to have to make sure that we're staying braced, and even if we need to take some breaks during these sets, it's worth it to keep that positioning strong. Our spine, our midline ultimately is not made to do sit-ups. It's made to keep our spine in a strong position throughout whatever movement is being thrown its way, and that's really what we're getting after today. Now we've got a few minutes of rest built in after each one of these big sets. So once you do 6 and 6 Turkish get-ups, 12 and 12 rows, we're gonna take a couple minutes of rest before we get back into it, just so we can keep the quality of our movements high. I hope this stuff helps you guys. I'm really excited to see how today goes. So log those results on HomeWOD. Keep up the great work, guys, and it's the weekend tomorrow.